Nostradamus Prophecy 2025, The Future Split of Humanity, Today's Prayer. The year is 2025. When we hear a phrase like Nostradamus's prophecy, especially when it's followed by the future split of humanity, our minds can easily conjure up dramatic, even apocalyptic images. Visions of falling cities, fractured continents, the kind of thing we've all seen in movies. It feels distant, like something out of a history book or a work of fiction. But what if the greatest prophecy isn't about the collapse of buildings, but about the quiet, invisible split that's happening right now, inside our own minds and across our society? What if the most important division of our time isn't one we can see, but one we can feel every single day? You see, the split that Nostradamus may have glimpsed centuries ago isn't a crack in the earth. It's a widening chasm between two very different ways of life, two ways of thinking, and ultimately, two ways of being in this complex modern world. It's a divergence of consciousness happening silently all around us. And that's where the second part of our title comes in. Today's prayer isn't about pleading for salvation from some outside force. Rather, it's about discovering a tool, a personal, powerful tool to help us find our own footing, our own stability, right in the middle of that great divide. It's about finding our anchor in the rushing tides of today. So, let's explore this together. Let's look beyond the myth and into the mirror of our current reality. 2025, a world at a digital crossroads. To understand why this old prophecy feels so potent, we don't need to look at ancient texts or star charts. We only need to look at the world we live in right now, in 2025, because the landscape itself seems to be engineered for a great divergence. Let's start with something that has become as invisible and essential as the air we breathe. Artificial intelligence. Not the sentient robots of science fiction, but the quiet, working AI that manages the background of our lives. It's no longer coming, it's here. It has settled into the very fabric of our daily existence. Consider, for a moment, a typical day. You wake up, and before your feet even touch the floor, you might glance at your phone. The news feed it presents isn't a random collection of world events. It's a curated list, selected for you by an algorithm that has learned your habits, your biases, and your triggers. It shows you what it thinks you want to see, or what it knows will get a reaction from you. You get in your car to go to work or run an errand. The navigation app on your dashboard doesn't just show you a map. It analyzes real-time traffic data from thousands of other users, rerouting you to avoid a slowdown you never even knew was there. A small convenience, a decision made for you. Later, you browse online for a new pair of shoes. For the rest of the day, on every website and social media app you visit, ads for those exact shoes and others like them follow you relentlessly. An algorithm is whispering, "Remember this? You wanted this." In the evening, you want to relax and watch a movie. The streaming service doesn't just offer a library, it presents a personalized marquee saying, "Based on what you watched before, you're going to love this." And more often than not, it's right. Individually, each of these moments is a marvel of convenience. A tiny friction point in life, smoothed over by an invisible, intelligent hand. But taken together, they represent a profound shift in human experience. The cost of all this convenience is a quiet, gradual surrender of small decisions. We are slowly outsourcing the act of choosing what to read, which route to take, what to buy, how to be entertained. And when you outsource enough small choices, you begin to erode the muscle of independent thought itself. This leads directly to the second pillar of our 2025 landscape, the deepening of our digital worlds, what some call filter bubbles or echo chambers. The same intelligent systems that recommend our movies are also recommending our worldviews. Social media feeds and news platforms are not open windows onto the world. They are rooms with walls made of mirrors. They are designed to reflect our own beliefs back at us, only stronger. If you believe one thing, the algorithm will show you 10 articles, 5 videos, and 100 comments that confirm you are absolutely right. It learns what you like, what you fear, and what you hate, and it feeds you a steady diet of it, because that's the most effective way to keep your attention. Organizations like the Pew Research Center have been documenting this trend for years, showing with hard data how people are increasingly being sorted into separate information realities. This isn't a secret conspiracy, it's a business model. In an economy that runs on clicks and engagement, a confirmation is more profitable than a conversation, and outrage is more valuable than understanding. And this brings us to the third, and perhaps most painful, pillar: the erosion of meaningful dialogue. When we all live in different, custom-built realities, how can we possibly have a conversation? We're no longer just disagreeing on opinions, we're disagreeing on basic, fundamental facts. It feels like we're all trying to read from different books while insisting we're on the same page. The result is the social landscape we see all around us. Conversations about important topics quickly devolve into arguments. People talk past one another. There's a growing sense that those on the other side aren't just misinformed, but that they're irrational, unreasonable, or even bad people. We've begun to speak different languages, so you have this subtle delegation of our choices to AI, which sorts us into these self-validating echo chambers, which in turn makes it nearly impossible to have the kind of respectful, good-faith conversations that a healthy society depends on. It's a powerful, self-reinforcing cycle. Sometime in the mid-2020s, a realization began to dawn on many observers. The greatest conflict of our time wasn't a war between nations or ideologies in the traditional sense. It was the quiet, relentless war for the attention of every single individual. And in that war, the most effective weapon has been division. This is the world of 2025. A world of incredible technological convenience, living inside realities that are increasingly personalized and isolated, and a public square that feels more like a battlefield. This is the fertile ground in which an old prophecy about two diverging paths begins to sound less like a mystical prediction and more like a sober observation. The prophet and the oracle, looking back at the origins. Now, with this modern context in mind, let's travel back in time. Let's turn our attention to the man at the center of this prophecy, Michel de Nostradamus, better known to the world as Nostradamus. To truly understand his writings, we have to understand his world. He lived in 16th century France, a time of immense turmoil and upheaval. The bubonic plague was a recent and terrifying memory. Religious wars were tearing Europe apart, and the established truths of the world were being questioned on every front. It was an age of anxiety, of rapid change, and of deep uncertainty about the future, not entirely unlike our own. Nostradamus was a physician, an astrologer, and a seer. He wasn't just some mystic making wild guesses. He was a man of his time, deeply educated, who observed the patterns of conflict, power, and human nature around him. He then projected those patterns into the future, veiling his visions in cryptic, poetic verses called quatrains. These verses are famously difficult to interpret, filled with metaphors, anagrams, and symbolic language. This ambiguity is precisely why his work has fascinated people for nearly 500 years. It invites us to find meaning within it. Many of his prophecies have been linked, often in hindsight, to major historical events. But for our discussion, we're going to focus on one particularly enigmatic verse. It comes from his third volume, or Century, and is the 77th quatrain. The language is archaic and symbolic, but I'll read one common English translation of the key lines. The third climate, comprising Aries, Mars, the Sun. Two paths diverge, one bathed in golden light, the other shrouded in darkness. Now, it's important to be respectful of the historical work that has gone into decoding these lines. According to many mainstream scholars and historians, this quatrain, like many others, might point to a specific, tangible event. Some interpretations connect it to a conflict involving the king of Persia in the year 1727. They see the astrological terms as codes for specific dates and political figures of that era. And this is a valid, scholarly approach, grounding the prophecy in a concrete historical moment. However, another way to look at these ancient texts is not as literal predictions, but as timeless, symbolic maps of the human condition. An alternate interpretation suggests that Nostradamus wasn't just predicting a single event, but a recurring pattern, a great archetypal choice that humanity would face. So, let's explore that possibility for a moment. What if we look at this quatrain not as a historical footnote, but as a symbolic message meant for a future age, an age like ours? What if we try to decode it metaphorically? Let's start with the first line, the third climate. In a literal sense, this means weather, but in a symbolic sense, a climate can mean an era, an age, or the prevailing spirit of a time. If we think of human history in broad strokes, you could argue we've had two major climates before now. The first was the agricultural age, defined by our relationship with the land. The second was the industrial age, defined by our relationship with machines. This would make our current era the information age, the third climate. An age defined not by what we grow or what we build, but by the information we consume and the consciousness we cultivate. Then we have the celestial symbols, Aries, Mars, the Sunday. Rather than seeing these as literal astrological influences, we can see them as potent symbols for the energies that define our third climate. Mars, in mythology, is the god of war. It represents conflict, aggression, division, and the drive to conquer. In our modern context, this isn't just about physical battlefields. It's about the argumentative nature of our online discourse, the tribalism, the constant state of digital conflict. The sun is a dual symbol. On one hand, it represents life, energy, enlightenment, and clarity. But on the other hand, the sun can also symbolize ego, pride, and being blinded by one's own light. The danger of believing your personal truth is the only truth. It perfectly captures the paradox of the internet, which offers both incredible knowledge and the profound risk of being trapped in the echo chamber of our own opinions. Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, is often associated with initiative, action, and a pioneering spirit, but also with impulsiveness and a lack of foresight. It's the energy of starting something new without necessarily considering the long-term consequences, a fitting description for the rapid, often reckless pace of our technological development. So, in this symbolic reading, the prophecy is describing our time, an information age characterized by conflict, ego, and impulsive action. And it is from this specific climate that the final, most important line emerges. Two paths diverge, one bathed in golden light, the other shrouded in darkness. This is the heart of it all. This isn't a simple choice between good and evil. It's a divergence in consciousness, a split in the very way we choose to navigate the world. It suggests that the pressures of our modern age are acting like a great sorting mechanism, pushing humanity down two fundamentally different tracks. One path leads towards a golden light, perhaps symbolizing enlightenment, connection, wisdom, and conscious evolution. The other path descends into darkness, not necessarily a literal darkness, but the darkness of confusion, isolation, endless distraction, and unconscious reaction. When we look at it this way, Nostradamus ceases to be a fortune teller predicting dates and names. He becomes a keen observer of the human spirit, who understood that at a certain point in our development, our own tools and our own conflicts would present us with a fundamental choice. A choice not about who to follow or what to believe, but about how to be. And that choice, he seems to suggest, is the defining story of our time. Two paths open. Consciousness in the New Age. If these two paths, one of golden light, one of shadow, are not about good versus evil in some grand cosmic battle, then what are they really about? Let's explore them not as destinations, but as two distinct ways of moving through the world, two modes of consciousness that are available to us in every single moment. Let's start with the one Nostradamus called the path shrouded in darkness. Let's call it the path of unconscious consumption. This path is not inherently evil. It is, however, the path of least resistance. It's the default setting of our modern world. It's the wide, smooth downhill road that society paves for us, beckoning us with the promise of ease and constant stimulation. The path of unconscious consumption is what happens when we are living on autopilot. It's the state of scrolling endlessly through a social media feed without any real purpose, letting the algorithm serve up one short, stimulating video after another. We're not choosing what we see, we're simply consuming what we're given. Our attention becomes a commodity, sold to the highest bidder without our active consent. It's the immediate, emotional reaction to a headline designed to make us angry or afraid. We see the shocking title, feel that jolt of outrage, and hit the share button, often without even reading the full article. We become an unwitting amplifier for someone else's agenda, spreading emotional static without adding any light. It's the habit of hearing a viewpoint from a single news source or a single group of friends, and then repeating it as absolute fact, without ever seeking out a different perspective or questioning the source. It's finding comfort in the echo chamber, where our existing beliefs are always validated and never challenged. On this path, our sense of self-worth can become tied to external validation. The number of likes on a post, the approval of the crowd, the feeling of belonging to the right group. We begin to look outward for our value, instead of cultivating it inward. This path is shrouded in a kind of darkness, not because it's sinister, but because it's lived unconsciously. It's a passive existence. We are being lived by the systems around us, rather than actively living our own lives. It's the easy road, and it's where the current of our digital world will naturally carry us if we simply let go of the oars. Now, let's turn to the other path, the one bathed in golden light. Let's call it the path of conscious creation. This path is not about being perfect or saintly or having all the answers. It is simply the path of choosing to be awake. It is the uphill road. It requires effort, intention, and a willingness to go against the current. The path of conscious creation is what happens when we decide to be the author of our own experience. It's the active choice of what we allow into our minds. It's deciding, today, I will read a chapter from a book before I look at my phone. It's choosing to watch a documentary that challenges your views, or listening to a piece of music that elevates your spirit, instead of just consuming whatever is trending. It's curating your own mental and emotional diet. It's the practice of pausing. When you feel that jolt of anger from a headline, you pause, you breathe. You ask, is this true? Is this helpful? Does reacting to this serve my well-being or the well-being of others? You reclaim the space between a stimulus and your response. It's the deliberate act of seeking out quiet time, away from all screens. It's taking a walk in nature, sitting in silence for a few minutes, or having a conversation with a loved one where the phone is in another room. It's creating moments where you can actually hear your own thoughts, away from the constant noise of the world. On this path, value comes from within. It's found in keeping a promise to yourself, in learning a new skill, in acting with integrity when no one is watching. It's about building a character that doesn't need external validation to feel whole. It's engaging in respectful dialogue, even and especially with those you disagree with, not to win an argument, but to understand another human being. This path is bathed in golden light, not because it's always happy, but because it's illuminated by the light of your own awareness. It is an active existence. And here, we arrive at the most crucial distinction. The greatest difference between these two paths is not about morality, but about consciousness. One is a life of reaction, the other is a life of response. One is passive, the other is active. The path of shadows is defined by what is done to us by algorithms, by media, by the pressures of the crowd. The golden path is defined by what we choose to do for ourselves and for the world, from a place of inner clarity. Each day, each moment, we stand at the fork of these two roads, and the choice we make, in the small, quiet moments of our lives, is what determines the direction of our journey. The engine of division, the invisible forces that exist. It's natural to hear about these two paths and wonder, why is this happening now? What is the engine driving this great divergence? Is there some hidden force pushing us apart? The answer is yes, but it may not be what you think. The architects of this division are not shadowy figures in a secret room. They are the invisible, impartial, and incredibly powerful systems that govern our digital world. The driving force is a concept that defines our era, the attention economy. In centuries past, the world's most valuable resources were things you could touch: land, gold, oil. Today, the most valuable resource is something you can't see or hold. It's your attention. Human attention is finite. There are only so many hours in a day, and every major technology company, every news outlet, every advertiser, every creator is in a relentless zero-sum competition to capture as much of your limited attention as possible. Your time and focus are the new oil. Now, once you understand that your attention is the prize, the next question is, what's the most effective way to capture and hold it? The answer, discovered and perfected over the last couple of decades, is emotion. But not just any emotion. The most engaging emotions, the ones that make us stop scrolling, click, comment, and share, are the strong, hot emotions. And at the top of that list are anger, outrage, and fear. This is where the algorithm comes in. An algorithm is just a set of rules, a recipe that a computer follows. The algorithms that run our social media feeds and news platforms have one primary goal: to keep you on the platform for as long as possible. That's it. They don't have a moral compass. They aren't programmed to show you what's true, or what's healthy, or what's good for society. They are programmed to show you what is most engaging. And through trillions of data points, these systems have learned a simple truth: division is engaging. Conflict creates clicks. Outrage drives interaction. A calm, nuanced discussion doesn't go viral. A fiery argument does. Content that confirms your deepest biases and makes you angry at the other side is algorithmic gold. It keeps you hooked, coming back for more, because it feels validating and urgent. This is the invisible mechanism at work. Imagine our society is a great river, and information flows through it. The algorithms are not malicious demons trying to poison the water. They are simply a series of dams and channels engineered with mathematical precision to maximize the river's speed and flow. But in their relentless efficiency, they have unintentionally dredged two separate, deep channels. Over time, the water has begun to flow almost exclusively down one channel or the other, carving them deeper and deeper. The current in each channel has grown faster and more powerful, pulling people along with it and making it harder and harder to even see, let alone cross over to the other side. So, when we feel like the world is becoming more polarized, it's not just a feeling, it's a design feature of the system we now live in. The system rewards extremism and punishes nuance. It amplifies the loudest, most divisive voices, while the calm, moderate voices are often drowned out. Thinkers and technologists who helped build these systems, like Tristan Harris, who was featured in the documentary The Social Dilemma, have been warning us about this for years. They explain that the system isn't evil, but its incentives are misaligned with our well-being. The goal is to maximize engagement, and the byproduct of that goal is a society that is increasingly fragmented, angry, and distrustful. This brings us to a stark but clarifying realization. This great division we are experiencing is not a conspiracy, it's a business model. There is no secret council deciding to tear us apart. There is only a system operating exactly as it was designed that has discovered that a divided population is a more engaged and therefore more profitable population. These are the powerful, invisible forces that are paving the path of unconscious consumption, making it the easiest and most stimulating road to travel. They are the unseen architects of the split, and understanding their motives is the first step toward reclaiming our own power of choice. So, we come to the end of this first part of our journey. We've seen how the cryptic words of a 16th century prophet can serve as a powerful mirror for our own time. They reflect back to us a world at a digital crossroads, shaped by systems that thrive on our attention and deepen our divisions. Perhaps then, the great split of humanity in 2025 is not a destiny written in the stars. Perhaps it is the sum total of billions of small, quiet choices made by each of us every single day. The choice to keep scrolling or to put the phone down. The choice to react in anger or to pause and seek to understand. The choice to stay within the comfortable echo chamber or to bravely listen to a different point of view. These are the moments where the two paths diverge. And now, we would be honored to hear your reflections. Do you recognize these two paths in your own life or in the lives of those around you? Which path feels like it's calling to you? And how do you choose to walk, day by day, in this complex world? Please share your stories and your insights in the comments below. Every shared experience is a ray of light, helping all of us to better illuminate the path ahead. Today's prayer, an anchor in the rushing tides of a divided world. In the first part of our discussion, we looked together into the mirror that Nostradamus seems to have held up to our time, reflecting a world being pulled toward two very different poles. Now, honestly acknowledging that seeing the powerful currents of technology and society at play can be unsettling. It can leave us feeling a bit small, perhaps even a little helpless in the face of such massive forces. It's easy to ask, so, what can one person possibly do? That is the question we will now turn to. And the answer is perhaps as ancient as humanity itself, yet more vital today than ever before. That answer is prayer. But when I say prayer, I'm not speaking of something that belongs to any one religion or tradition. I'm speaking of something more fundamental. This isn't about a prayer to change the world outside of us, but rather a prayer to fortify and reshape the world inside of us. It is the act of claiming sovereignty over our own mind and our own spirit. It's a declaration of inner independence. For the purpose of our conversation today, let's think of prayer as any conscious, intentional act of directing our awareness. Whether you call it meditation, quiet reflection, a personal affirmation, or a conversation with God, the essence is the same. It is the simple, profound act of pausing the outside world, taking a breath, and consciously choosing the inner state from which you wish to live. It is the bridge between seeing the prophecy and practicing a new way of being. It's how we move from understanding the problem to becoming part of the solution. 0. First tune, a prayer for clarity and discernment. So, where do we begin this vital inner work? Where is the first step on that path of conscious creation? It begins with the most fundamental quality needed to navigate our modern world: clarity. Before we can choose which path to walk, we must first be able to see the paths clearly. And seeing clearly, with any degree of peace, is incredibly difficult when we are standing in the middle of a perpetual hurricane of information. The path of unconscious consumption we spoke of doesn't thrive in evil. It thrives in fog, in distraction, in the endless buzzing noise of the everyday. Therefore, our very first act of prayer, our first moment of true conscious intention, must be an act of quiet rebellion. It is the rebellion against noise. It is the prayer for clarity. To truly grasp this, let's use an old and simple metaphor, and let's take our time with it. Imagine that your mind, your inner world, is a beautiful and private garden. This garden is yours and yours alone. It has rich, fertile soil, capable of growing anything from the most stunning flowers of joy and wisdom to the most tangled and thorny weeds of anxiety and resentment. Now, for most of us, living in this busy world, we have unknowingly left the gate to this garden wide open, from the moment we wake to the moment we fall asleep. Every time we unlock our phone, every time we turn on the television, every time we glance at a screen in a waiting room, we are allowing the winds of the world to blow through our garden unchecked. And these winds, as we know, carry all sorts of seeds. There are the seeds of outrage, carried on the gust of a political headline designed specifically to provoke us. There are the seeds of fear, scattered by a breaking news alert that makes the world feel like a dangerous and unstable place. There are the tiny, almost invisible seeds of comparison that drift in from a social media post, whispering that our life, our home, our experiences are somehow not enough. And then there are the seeds of anger and division, carried in the dust clouds of a contentious comment section. When the gate is always open, these seeds don't just blow through, they land in the fertile soil of our minds, and because they are often charged with strong emotions, they take root quickly, they grow. Before we know it, our precious inner space, which was meant for peace and creativity, has become overgrown. We find our thoughts choked by the weeds of anxious what-ifs, our hearts scratched by the thorns of old resentments, and our perspective tangled in the thick and fast-growing vines of other people's opinions and agendas. We stand in the middle of our own garden and wonder, why do I feel so chaotic? Why is my mind so noisy? Why do I feel so overwhelmed? The prayer for clarity, then, is the simple, daily, and profoundly loving act of deciding to become the gardener of this sacred space. It is the conscious decision, each morning, to walk over and gently close the gate, even for just a few minutes. It is the practice of looking at the thoughts and feelings that are already growing inside you, and without harsh judgment, gently discerning what is a flower and what is a weed. The weeds are not evil, they are just plants growing where they don't belong. We gently pull them, not with anger, but with care, to make space for what we truly want to cultivate. And most importantly, becoming the gardener is the intentional act of choosing which seeds you want to plant for the day. Do you want to plant seeds of kindness, seeds of patience, seeds of curiosity? How do we do this in a way that feels real and practical, not abstract? It can start with a single, powerful, and transformative moment at the very beginning of your day. Before you reach for your phone, that action which throws the gate wide open, take just 1 minute, just 60 seconds for yourself. You can do it before your feet even touch the floor. Close your eyes, take one deep, conscious breath, and ask yourself a simple, honest question. Today, what do I want to feed my mind and my spirit? Do I want to feed it wisdom or do I want to feed it outrage? Do I want to nourish it with depth or distract it with superficiality? Do I want to cultivate connection, or do I want to water the roots of conflict? Simply by asking this question, you have performed a sacred act. You have closed the gate. You have shifted from being a passive consumer of whatever seeds happen to blow in, to being the active, conscious caretaker of your own garden. You have reminded yourself that you have a choice. This isn't a New Age invention, of course. This wisdom is ancient. The Stoic philosophers of old Greece and Rome built their entire philosophy around this very idea. A teacher named Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the most respected thinkers of his time, taught a lesson that feels as if it were written for us today. He explained that the chief task in a well-lived life is to separate all things into two simple categories: those things that are within our control and those that are not. The noise of the world, the opinions of millions, the events of the global news cycle, the actions of others, these things, he taught, are largely outside our control. Trying to manage them is a recipe for frustration and despair. But our own judgment about these things, our own response, our own choice of where to place our precious focus, that, he said, is entirely within our control. This is the only garden we can truly tend. The prayer for clarity is the practice of withdrawing our energy from the storms outside the gate and focusing it on the soil within it. This leads us to a profound truth for our time. Clarity in the 21st century is not about knowing everything. That's impossible. It's not about having the right answer to every complex question. That's a burden no one can carry. Clarity, today, is about knowing which questions are worthy of your attention. It is the learned ability to discern the signal from the noise. The signal is what resonates with your deepest values, what nourishes your spirit, what helps you grow into a wiser and more compassionate human being. The noise is everything else. So, a prayer, a meditation, a quiet reflection for clarity might sound something like this. You can use these words, or you can find your own, because the intention is what holds the power. Today, grant me the eyes to see through the chaos around me. Grant me the ears to listen for the quiet truth that speaks beneath the noise. And grant me a calm mind and a peaceful heart, so I may have the wisdom to discern what truly matters and the grace to let go of all the rest. This is the first movement in the symphony of our daily prayer. It is the courageous act of creating a small, quiet clearing in the dense, overgrown forest of the modern mind, allowing a little space and a little silence so that the light can finally begin to shine through. Song 2. A Prayer for Courage and Integrity. Once we have created that small clearing in our minds, once we have prayed for the clarity to see the path ahead, another, more profound challenge arises. It is one thing to see the golden path. It is another thing entirely to have the strength to walk it. This is where the second movement of our daily prayer begins. This is the prayer for courage and integrity. Clarity shows us the way. Courage gives us the strength to take the first step, and every step after that. Why is courage so necessary? Because, as we've discussed, the path of unconscious consumption is the easy path. It's the path of least resistance. It offers us the immediate comfort of agreement, the satisfying rush of joining a digital mob, the seductive ease of simply going with the flow. It costs very little effort to be swept along by the current. The path of conscious creation, however, requires something more from us. It often asks us to stand still while the crowd rushes past. It asks us to be quiet when everything around us is shouting. It asks us to choose the harder right over the easier wrong, and that requires a deep and steady courage. But we need to redefine what courage looks like in the 21st century. The courage we speak of today is rarely the kind you see in movies. It is not always a heroic act on a battlefield or a dramatic stand against a visible enemy. For most of us, The courage required now is a quieter, more internal, and often invisible kind of strength. It is the courage to choose silence when your every impulse is to add your own angry voice to a pointless argument online. It is the simple, powerful act of refusing to add more fuel to a fire that is warming no one and burning everyone. It is the courage to say those three most difficult words in an age that rewards false certainty: I don't know. The courage to admit you don't have an opinion on every issue, to be a learner instead of a pundit, to be curious instead of constantly conclusive. And perhaps most profoundly, it is the courage to keep a promise to yourself. The courage to follow through on your own intention to live a more conscious life, even when you're tired, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one else is watching. For those of us who have lived a few decades, this courage takes on very practical forms. It might be the courage to have a difficult but loving conversation with a child or grandchild about the soul-crushing nature of their screen addiction. It's the courage to set boundaries in a world that wants us to be available 24/7. It is the quiet courage to walk away from a conversation at work or in your community when it turns to cynical gossip, not with self-righteousness, but with a simple, silent commitment to not participate in the tearing down of another. This courage isn't about being better than anyone else. It is about being true to the best version of yourself. This is the essence of integrity. The word integrity comes from the same root as the word integer, which means a whole number. It also shares a root with words like integrate and entire. Integrity, therefore, is the state of being whole, undivided, and complete. Integrity is the harmony between what you believe, what you say, and what you do. In a world that is constantly pulling us in a dozen different directions, trying to fracture our attention and compromise our values, the act of living with integrity is a radical act of self-unification. It is the act of bringing all the scattered parts of yourself back together into a coherent whole. When you act with integrity, you are no longer a leaf blown about by the winds of public opinion. You are a tree with deep roots in your own values. This is a quiet, daily practice. History remembers the grand gestures, but our lives are built upon the small ones. We've all heard stories of ordinary people who, in their time, showed extraordinary integrity, people who spoke truth to power, who sheltered the vulnerable, who refused to compromise their principles. Their strength wasn't born in a single moment of crisis. It was forged, day by day, in 1,000 small choices to be true to themselves. That is the strength we are praying to cultivate, not for a single heroic moment, but for the quiet heroism of a well-lived life. So, a prayer or a reflection for this kind of courage might sound something like this. Again, find the words that resonate in your own heart. Today, grant me the strength for my feet to follow the path my heart knows is true. Grant me the courage for my words to reflect the quiet wisdom within me, not the loud opinions around me. And grant me the integrity for my actions to be a living testament to the values I hold most dear. This is the second melody. The prayer for clarity opens our eyes. The prayer for courage strengthens our will. It gives us the fortitude not just to see the golden path, but to begin walking it, one steady, conscious, and wholehearted step at a time. The third song, a prayer for compassion and connection. We have prayed for the clarity to see our path. We have prayed for the courage to walk it with integrity. But this journey, this golden path, is not meant to be walked alone. And so we arrive at the third and final movement of our daily prayer. This is the melody that directly counters the great division of our time. This is the prayer for compassion and for connection. If the engine of our modern world runs on the fuel of division, then compassion is the water that can cool that engine. If the algorithms and the echo chambers are designed to make us see other people as categories, as labels, as opponents as the other side, then this prayer is the conscious act of choosing to see the human being behind the label. It's about choosing to build a bridge, right in the place where the world wants you to build a wall. One of the most subtle but damaging psychological effects of our online world is a process called dehumanization. It's a very natural thing that happens when we interact with people, not as flesh and blood individuals, but as text on a screen, as a profile picture, as an avatar. We forget so easily that behind every single comment, every post, every opinion that makes our blood boil, there is a whole complex person. A person with a childhood, a person who loves their family, a person who has experienced heartbreak and joy and disappointment, a person who is probably just as worried about the future as we are, even if they express that worry in a completely different way. When we strip all that away and just see the opinion we disagree with, we make them less than human in our minds. It becomes easy to dismiss them, to insult them, to feel nothing but contempt for them. And when we do that, we participate in the very act of division that is tearing our world apart. We become agents of the split. The prayer for compassion is a rebellion against this dehumanization. Let's use another metaphor. Imagine that the culture of polarization hands each of us a special pair of glasses. These glasses are designed to filter reality in a very specific way. When you look at someone through these glasses, you can only see the ways in which they are different from you. You see their flaws, their mistakes, their annoying habits, the political party they belong to, the beliefs you find infuriating. The glasses magnify disagreement and make shared humanity invisible. Most of us are wearing these glasses all day long without even realizing it. The prayer for compassion is the conscious, intentional act of taking those glasses off, even for just a moment. It's the choice to try, just for a second, to see the person in front of you, whether they're in your home or on your screen through your own naked eyes. It's the attempt to look past the label and see the person who, just like you, is simply trying to navigate this confusing life. It's the search for the common ground of shared hopes, shared fears, and the universal desire to be seen, heard, and loved. How do we practice this, especially when it feels so difficult? Here is a small practical exercise you can try. The next time you are online and you read a comment that makes you angry or frustrated, I want you to resist the immediate urge to type a reply. Instead, just pause, take one deep breath, and for 30 seconds, try this. Picture the person who wrote it. Don't picture a monster or an idiot. Picture a regular person. Maybe they had a really terrible day at work. Maybe they're scared about paying their bills. Maybe they're dealing with a health issue or a family crisis. Maybe they're just lonely. You don't have to know their story. You just have to remember that they have one. And then, in the quiet of your own mind, wish them well. You can say something simple like, "May you be peaceful, may you be happy." You are not doing this for them. They will never know. You are doing this for you. You are doing it to cleanse your own heart of the poison of contempt. You are doing it to free yourself from the heavy burden of someone else's anger. It is an act of profound self-care. This brings us to a vital understanding. Compassion does not mean agreement. You can have compassion for someone while completely disagreeing with their ideas. It is not about condoning harmful behavior or abandoning your own principles. Compassion is the simple, radical act of acknowledging the inherent worth and humanity of another person, regardless of your differences. It is the ultimate act of rebellion against a system that profits from our hatred of one another. Every time you choose understanding over judgment, curiosity over certainty, and empathy over outrage, you are casting a vote for a different kind of world. You are weaving a thread of connection in a fabric that is being torn apart. So, a prayer or a reflection for compassion might be the gentlest, but perhaps the most powerful of them all. Let the words come from the warmest part of your heart. Today, grant me a heart wide enough to see the spark of humanity in every person I meet, especially in those I find it most difficult to understand. Help me to be a bridge builder. Help me to listen more than I speak. Help me to be an instrument of peace and a source of healing in my own small corner of the world. This is the third and final melody. The prayer for clarity opens our eyes. The prayer for courage strengthens our will, and the prayer for compassion opens our hearts. Together, they form a harmony that can keep our inner world steady, sane, and whole, no matter how divided the outer world becomes. And so, the three melodies come together to form a single, complete harmony: clarity, courage, and compassion. Today's prayer, then, is a simple, three-part act. To see clearly, to act rightly, and to feel deeply. It is our anchor in the rushing currents of our time. It doesn't promise to change the world overnight, but what it does promise is to change the one person who is experiencing that world, and that person is you. It's not a single act we perform, but an entire attitude we choose to live by, a daily commitment to tend the garden of our own soul. This inner journey is, by its very nature, a personal one. We are all at different places on the path. So, we invite you to reflect for a moment. Of the three qualities we've discussed today, clarity, courage, and compassion, which one is calling to you most strongly at this moment in your life? Which one do you feel you need to cultivate the most, to help you walk your own path with a little more steadiness and grace? Please, consider sharing your reflection respectfully in the comments. Your personal insight could be the very thing that inspires and encourages someone else who is walking this path alongside you. Lessons for us today: navigating the split with wisdom and grace. In our last section, we explored prayer as an anchor for the soul, a daily practice to cultivate clarity, courage, and compassion. It is the work of steadying our own inner vessel. But once the ship is steady, a new question naturally arises. Where do we sail it? How do we navigate the powerful, opposing currents of the age we've been discussing? This brings us to our final section: lessons for us today. This is the moment where we distill everything we've contemplated into practical wisdom. We will shift from the inner world of prayer to the outer world of action. The lessons we'll explore are not just for the year 2025. They are timeless principles that can illuminate our path for all the years to come. Because the ultimate value of looking at an ancient prophecy is not to predict the future. It is to understand our present more deeply. The final purpose of reflecting on Nostradamus's vision is not to fear the great split, but to learn how to become an agent of healing and connection right where we are. And that healing, like all true and lasting change, must begin with ourselves. A lesson in the power of choice. The first and most foundational lesson for our time is this: you have the power to choose. More specifically, you have the power to choose what you allow into your mind. In an age of information overload, this is not a small thing. It is, perhaps, the greatest power you possess. This lesson is about shifting your role from that of a passive consumer to that of a conscious curator of your own reality. Let's use a simple, powerful metaphor. Think of your mind as your home. It is your private, intimate space. You have the front door, the windows, the living room where you rest, the kitchen where you find nourishment. This home is sacred. Now, in your physical home, you wouldn't just leave the front door wide open all day and all night, would you? You wouldn't allow just any stranger who happens to be walking down the street to come in, track mud on your carpets, and shout angry opinions in your living room. You wouldn't let someone dump a pile of garbage in the middle of your kitchen floor. Of course not. You are the gatekeeper of your home, You decide who and what gets to come inside. And yet, for so many of us, this is precisely what we do with our minds every single day. Every time we pick up our phone and begin to scroll, we are flinging the front door of our mind wide open to the entire world. We are allowing hundreds of strangers, advertisers, angry commentators, algorithmically boosted provocateurs to march right into our sacred inner space. They track the mud of their negativity onto the carpets of our peace. They shout their divisive opinions in the living room of our thoughts. They dump the garbage of useless, anxiety-inducing information right in the center of our consciousness. We look around at the mess inside our own heads and wonder why we feel so anxious, so cluttered, so unsettled. It's because we've forgotten that we are the gatekeepers. The first lesson, then, is to remember your role. You are the curator of your mind. You have the right and the responsibility to choose what you allow past the threshold. This isn't about hiding from the world. It's about engaging with the world on your own terms. So, how do we practice this curation in a tangible way? It starts with two simple but life-changing concepts. First is the idea of an information diet. Just like we think about the food we eat, we must start thinking about the information we consume. Some information is like nutritious, wholesome food. It nourishes our intellect, deepens our wisdom, and inspires our spirit. Other information is like junk food. It's cheap, it's easy, it gives us a quick, sugary rush of emotion, but ultimately it leaves us feeling sick, sluggish, and malnourished. An information diet means making conscious choices. It might mean setting aside specific times of the day to check the news, rather than letting it stream in constantly. Perhaps you give yourself the gift of the first hour of your day being completely free of news or social media, allowing your own thoughts to be the first voice you hear. It also means actively seeking out nourishing sources. Instead of only consuming headlines designed to provoke a reaction, maybe you subscribe to a publication that offers deep, thoughtful analysis. Maybe you choose to read a book on a subject that interests you, or watch a documentary that expands your perspective. It means choosing the nutritious meal over the easy junk food, even when the junk food is being pushed on you from every direction. The second concept is the practice of being a social media curator. Our social media feeds do not have to be the chaotic, angry places they often are. They can be sources of inspiration, learning, and genuine connection, if we consciously curate them to be so. This involves two simple actions. The first is the gentle but firm act of using the unfollow or mute button. Think of it as spring cleaning for your digital home. Is there an account, a person, or a page that, every time you see their content, leaves you feeling angry, anxious, or diminished? You have absolutely no obligation to keep letting them into your home. Unfollowing them is not an act of aggression. It is an act of peace. It is a quiet declaration that you are in charge of the atmosphere of your own mind. The second action is to actively seek out and follow voices that uplift you. Follow artists, poets, scientists, historians, gardeners, thinkers, and ordinary people who share content that is beautiful, insightful, or kind. Intentionally populate your feed with wisdom and grace. Turn your social media from a place that drains your energy into a place that can, at its best, replenish it. This is where our power truly lies. You cannot control what the world posts. You cannot control the algorithms. You cannot control what other people choose to believe or say. But you have absolute, sovereign control over what you choose to subscribe to. You control the follow and the unfollow button. In a very real sense, the great split between the two paths we've been discussing begins with that choice, made over and over again in the quiet of your own mind. You are the curator, you are the gatekeeper, and your power to choose what you let in is the first and most vital lesson for finding your way, with wisdom and with grace, through this complicated and noisy world. Lessons in human nature. Once we have begun to curate our own inner world, we can turn our attention to the next great lesson our era has to teach us. This one is about the very nature of who we are as human beings, and it centers on one of the most poignant paradoxes of our time. Here is the paradox. We live in the most technologically connected age in the history of the world. We have devices in our pockets that can connect us in an instant with people on the other side of the planet. And yet, study after study and story after story tells us that people are feeling more isolated and lonelier than ever before. How can this be? How can we be so connected and yet feel so alone? The answer, and the lesson it holds, lies in understanding the profound difference between two words: interaction and connection. The path of unconscious consumption, the path of the algorithm, is a master at providing us with endless interaction. It gives us likes, shares, comments, retweets, notifications, and messages. It bombards us with signals that we are participating, that we are engaged, that we are being seen. These interactions can provide a quick, fleeting sense of being part of something, but they are often shallow. They are like snacking on candy when what your body truly needs is a nourishing meal. They can fill the empty moments, but they cannot fill the empty spaces in our hearts. Because what we fundamentally crave as human beings is not interaction, it is connection. Connection is something entirely different. It's not data, it's not a notification. Connection is the feeling of being truly seen and heard by another person. It's the warmth of shared understanding, the safety of non-judgmental presence, the deep and quiet knowledge that you are not alone in your experience of being human. 1,000 likes on a photograph cannot replace the feeling of one person looking you in the eyes and saying, "I understand." 100 comments in a heated online debate cannot provide the nourishment of one calm, respectful conversation with a friend, where you both listen more than you speak. An emoji of a heart is not the same as a heartfelt hug. The challenge of our time is that the world is now engineered to sell us a cheap substitute for the real thing. It offers us the illusion of connection through an endless stream of superficial interactions, and in doing so, it can actually deepen our sense of isolation, because we are constantly being reminded of what we are missing. The golden path, the path of conscious creation, recognizes this truth. It understands that true connection is an analog virtue in a digital world. It doesn't happen by accident. It must be cultivated with intention, effort, and care. It requires us to put down the devices that promise interaction and turn toward the people who can offer us connection. So, what does this look like in practice for those of us navigating our daily lives? It looks like choosing to make a phone call instead of just sending a text message. It's the decision to hear the tone of a loved one's voice, to catch the nuance, the laughter, the hesitation, all the beautifully human things that get lost in a typed message. It looks like establishing a simple, sacred rule in our homes, like having family dinners where all phones are put away in a basket, out of sight. It's the gift of giving each other our undivided attention, even for just 30 minutes, creating a space where real conversations can happen. It might look like taking the time to have a real conversation with a neighbor over the fence, instead of just a quick wave. It's asking, "How are you really doing?" and then having the patience to actually listen to the answer. It's choosing presence over productivity. This is the deeper work. The path of interaction is easy and endless. The path of connection is slower, more deliberate, and infinitely more rewarding. And this leads us to what may be one of the most important splits of all. The greatest divide in our society may not be between political parties or generations or any of the other labels we use. Perhaps the greatest divide is between those who are seeking validation from an algorithm and those who are seeking understanding from another human soul. The first path leads to a world of more noise and deeper loneliness. The second path, the one we choose through our small, intentional acts of connection, is the one that leads us back home to each other. Lessons in evolution. We've spoken about curating our minds and cultivating connection. This brings us to the third, and perhaps most challenging, lesson for our time. It is the lesson of embracing the discomfort of growth. Throughout our conversation, we've referred to the path of conscious creation, the golden path, as the uphill road. It's crucial that we are honest about what that means. It means this path is not always the most comfortable one. In fact, it often requires us to lean into discomfort, to face challenges, and to do the hard work that true growth demands. Our modern digital world is largely designed around one central promise, the promise of comfort. The algorithms that feed us information are engineered to keep us in our comfort zone. They learn what we already believe, and they feed us more of it, because it's comfortable to have our views confirmed. It's uncomfortable to have them challenged. The endless stream of entertainment at our fingertips is designed to help us avoid the discomfort of boredom or quiet self-reflection. It's easier to watch one more episode than to sit with our own thoughts. Even our social interactions are often optimized for comfort, allowing us to block or mute anyone who disagrees with us, creating a personalized world where we are always right. This relentless pursuit of comfort is seductive, but it comes with a hidden cost. A life lived entirely within the comfort zone is a life that does not grow. Muscles that are never challenged become weak. A mind that is never stretched becomes rigid. A spirit that is never tested remains fragile. True growth, the evolution of a person and of a society, does not happen in the comfort zone. It happens at the edge of it. It happens in the moments of friction, of challenge, of discomfort. And so, we must learn to redefine our relationship with discomfort. The discomfort of hearing a thoughtful opinion that contradicts your own is not a sign of danger. It is the feeling of your mind expanding. It is the sound of a window opening in a room that had been sealed shut. The discomfort of admitting you were wrong about something is not a sign of failure. It is the first, essential step toward wisdom. It is the humbling, beautiful act of choosing to be a student of life rather than a master of a fixed set of beliefs. The discomfort of having a difficult, honest conversation with someone you love is not something to be avoided. It is the very work of building a deeper, more authentic connection. The path of unconscious consumption avoids this discomfort at all costs. It offers the easy comfort of certainty, the temporary relief of distraction, and the shallow satisfaction of always being right. The golden path invites us to do the opposite. It asks us to be brave enough to be beginners. It asks us to be strong enough to be vulnerable. It asks us to be wise enough to welcome the very challenges that will help us grow. So, here is a practical challenge for the coming week, should you choose to accept it. I invite you to intentionally choose one small, conscious act of discomfort. Perhaps it's this: find a well-researched article or a thoughtful video from a reputable source that you know will present a viewpoint different from your own. And as you engage with it, your only goal is not to debate it, not to refute it, but simply to ask one question: what can I understand from this perspective? Just try to understand. That's a powerful, uncomfortable, and transformative act. Or perhaps your act of discomfort is to apologize to someone you wronged, even if it was a long time ago, or to finally have that conversation you've been putting off. Choose one thing, because in that single, intentional choice, you are teaching yourself a new way to be. You are training the muscle of your own evolution. This leads us to a final, crucial understanding about these two paths. The path of shadows promises comfort, and in the end, it often delivers a deep and hollow emptiness. The golden path demands effort, and in the end, it offers the profound reward of wholeness and integrity. So, the choice we face each day is not truly between what is easy and what is hard. It is the choice between two very different kinds of rewards. And the willingness to embrace the noble discomfort of growth is what ultimately separates one path from the other. We began this journey together with an ancient prophecy about a great split. But perhaps the greatest lesson of all is the realization that both paths exist within each and every one of us. Every day, every hour, with every small choice we make, we decide which path we will water with our attention, our energy, and our heart. You are not a passive spectator waiting to see how a prophecy unfolds. Your choices, your kindness, your courage, your conscious awareness, you are the prophecy unfolding. You are the one writing the story of our future, one thoughtful action at a time. Thank you for walking this entire journey of reflection with me. If these lessons have resonated with you, I invite you to share this experience with one other person in your life who you feel is also seeking a little more clarity and peace in our modern world. As a quiet commitment to yourself to continue walking this path of awareness, I invite you to press the subscribe button. In doing so, you're not just following a channel, you are joining a growing community of souls who are consciously choosing to turn toward the light. Finally, if you are still listening to my voice at this moment, I would be deeply grateful if you would leave a simple comment below that just says, "I am still here." It will let me know that there are friends walking this path with me all the way to the end. Your presence is the greatest possible encouragement to continue creating meaningful journeys like this one. Thank you, and may peace be with you always.